Welcome to the week that was, but we mostly wish it wasn't, for the week ending September 26, 2025. This is a weekly roundup of the highlights, lowlights, and major stories about campus anti-Zionism and anti-Semitism. This week I had about 30 stories to choose from, a slightly lighter load than usual, but don't worry, things are gearing up. If something is happening in your neck of the woods, please be sure to let me know. I'm your host, Andrew Pessin. I am a professor. Please don't hate me. For more about me and my work, visit andrewpessin.com. For all the details of today's stories and loads more stories, please follow me on X at Andrew Pessin. Okay, let's get to the news. This is a K through 12 story, usually goes in its own category, but it's important, so we'll put it here in the breaking news category. In a landmark ruling, a California court has decreed that Jewish public school students and their parents can sue their school districts for allowing the use of biased, hostile anti-Semitic materials in the classroom. Says Lori Lowenthal Marcus, who is the legal director for the Deborah Project, a public interest law firm that represents Jews facing discrimination in education. Quote, Jewish parents have been waging battle against anti Semitic instructional materials and instructors that expose their children to harm and hatred. This is the first judicial decision addressing claims that the use of biased material violates the law. The case in question concerned the Berkeley, California Unified School District, and its administrators. The court ruled that the administrators and agents had a legal duty to allow parents to see the materials that are being used in the classroom, and noted that the very teaching of these materials can itself constitute illegal discrimination. Meanwhile, at the University of Missouri, a judge has ruled that Students for Justice in Palestine must be permitted to participate in the homecoming parade. The school had banned them last year and this year on the basis of safety concerns and other concerns, but the judge has overruled that. Columbia University, Jewish graduate students have filed a federal complaint against their union for pursuing radical anti-Israel measures such as boycott, divestment, sanctions, BDS, instead of promoting their actual labor concerns. With respect to UCLA, a judge has ordered the Trump administration to restore $500 million in frozen funding. And UC Berkeley and also Northwestern come together in this story. A man named Casey Goonan, who is a member of the Free Palestine group that has been sentenced to nearly 20 years in prison after setting a UC Berkeley police car on fire, as well as other arson attempts. Goonan acknowledged that these attacks were inspired by Hamas's October 7th massacre, and he called on others to attack property on Bay Area college campuses in support of Palestine. He graduated from Northwestern in 2022 with a doctorate in African American Studies. One wonders what they're teaching there, and described himself on online bios as a scholar activist. Harvard. The Trump administration has escalated its campaign one step further against Harvard this week by placing new restrictions on the Ivy League schools' ability to access federal funds. Um, the Department of Education said it had placed the university on, quote, heightened cash monitoring status, which is a move that will require the school to disperse its own funds for federal student aid before accessing Department of Education. Duke University, dozens of anti-Israel students there participated in a die-in to protest the Gaza war, demanding divestment from Israel, chanting, Duke administration, you can't hide, you're supporting genocide, and 5678, Israel is a terrorist state, and also chanted the genocidal chant from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. The University of Maryland, the student government there voted 25 to 1, and one wonders who that brave one person was, this week to call upon the school, which is a public institution, to formally and publicly acknowledge the ongoing situation in Gaza as genocide and to issue a public statement urging for an immediate and permanent ceasefire in Gaza. Syracuse University. On the first night of Rosh Hashanah this past week, Jewish students of the Zeta Beta Tau fraternity were gathered for a holiday dinner when a student barged in, threw pork onto the floor to desecrate their religious meal, and fled with an accomplice. Two students have since been charged with hate crimes for this affair, one for driving, the other one for entering and throwing the pork. Up north in Canada, Concordia University, long a hotspot for anti-Israel activism. Almost a year after the Concordia University student strike for Palestine in November of 2024, the Fine Arts Student Alliance has become the first student association at the university to vote for a strike for Palestine for this coming fall. It is, of course, scheduled to happen on October 6th and October 7th to commemorate the massacre. The students voted 53 to 1 in favor of this resolution. Again, one wonders who that one person was. Also in Canada, the Toronto Metropolitan University, the Students for Justice in Palestine group there organized a walkout at the university to oppose the treatment of a pro-Palestinian protester by an on-campus security guard the week before. There was a video of the security guard pretty much rough handling that protester, but that person apparently was arrested by security for disruptive behavior. At the walkout itself, another person was arrested for criminal harassment. In New Zealand, does that count as down under? I think it does. Victoria University of Wellington's academic board has overwhelmingly voted to endorse a SJP proposal for BDS, boycott and divestment. In particular, the motion directs the university to sever all ties and not build future ones with Israeli institutions. This includes research and academic collaborations. In Scotland, a student who was slashed in the face at an anti-Israel demonstration earlier this year has now claimed that the university security staff knew that his attacker was carrying a knife and failed to intervene. The student was assaulted by a man named Thomas Mackenzie earlier this year. He shouted racist slurs and performed Nazi salutes towards the crowd before he was challenged about his behavior. He then pulled out a box cutter blade and slashed the student across the face. This week, he was fortunately jailed for 22 months for that attack. In the Professional Organization and Conference Department in France, 5 historians have withdrawn from a Jewish history colloquium in Paris over Israeli participation. This was a colloquium on the history of French Jews, and it was intended to bring together 25 French and Israeli historians. The 5 researchers who declined to participate claimed that participation in the colloquium, quote, amounted to support for the Israeli government, end quote. Takes serious gymnastics of intellectual thought to reach that conclusion. In the BDS, boycott, divestment, sanction category, in addition to earlier stories back up in Canada again, the University of Waterloo has chosen not to renew its collaboration with Israel's Technion after a student pro-BDS referendum a few months back. In the K through 12 department, in addition to the major story that we started with today, Kenmore West High School in New York, there was anti-Semitic graffiti reading, quote, a swastika a day keeps the Jews away. It was in the boys' bathroom on the eve of Rosh Hashanah. Meanwhile, the National Education Association, which is the largest professional organization in the United States, that whose members are mostly educators and students, and they work in the area of public education, they have created a subcommittee that will be doing a 3-day hunger strike for Palestine, scheduled, of course, for October 8th through 10th, again to commemorate that massacre. In the Jews Are Our Own Worst Enemies department, SUNY Binghamton Center for Israel Studies has sponsored a 3-session anti-Israel series. It's long been documented that Jewish studies programs in many, many universities are stock full, basically, of Israel-hating professors and run a very anti-Israel agenda. In the Naughty Professors Department in Australia, here's some bit of good news. The University of Sydney lecturer is no longer employed there after tweeting that he wanted, quote, Zionists executed like we executed Nazis. It's not clear if he resigned or was in fact fired. In any case, good that he's not there. The bar, is so low to get rid of these people calling for Zionists to be executed, I guess, did not pass that bar. Anyway, that's the news. Unfortunately, mostly unfortunately, tune in next week to see what fresh horrors next week will bring. Again, I'm your host, Andrew Pessin at andrewpessin.com, hoping everybody can keep it together until next week.